Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Last time I talked about getting the TN visa and coming over to the United States to work legally as a Canadian citizen. And this time it's going to be a more broad video that is just regarding how to obtain your driver's license in the state of California, whether you have an international license or an out-of-state license. It's the exact same procedure. Prior to getting your driver's license, it should be noted that, for example, if you have a full driver's license in the state or the province or territory, if you're from Canada, then you can drive in California. It's perfectly fine. There is a note in the driver handbook that says that, yeah, you're perfectly allowed to drive. The only reason why I ended up getting a California license in addition to the license that I had back from Canada was because I wanted to have that flexibility and I wanted to fit in more with the people that were here. For myself, since I entered the US on a TN visa, when I went to the DMV to apply for the permit, which is the first of two steps, it was kind of frustrating because I was on time for my exam and then I ended up being late because they needed both my I-94 as well as my passport, as well as 2 pieces of ID for proof of residency and your social security number. I'd recommend prior to going to the DMV, you should just bring every kind of document that you have just to be safe and to prevent yourself from having to go back and forth between where you're living and the local DMV that you're going to. California license can be a little bit tricky and also a little bit frustrating, especially if, like myself, I had an advanced driver's license back where I came from. And so having to basically start as a non-driver and go through the process was really frustrating for me. And you probably hear about those horror stories about the DMV or the Department of Motor Vehicles. Yeah, they're true. But to start off, it's just 2 main steps to obtain your driver's license. What you will first have to do is pass what they call the permit test. The permit test, it is a multiple choice test that is given in either Spanish or English, and it consists of around 46 questions. Out of the 46 questions, at least when I took the exam in November of 2021, you were allowed to have 8 questions that were wrong. You were also allowed to skip questions as well. The best way to prepare yourself for the permit exam is to grab one of these guys here. It is a California driver's handbook. They are available at the DMV for free, and it basically is like any other sort of driving instruction booklet. It gives you basically everything that you need to know and that you need to study for the examination. There's also a ton of free practice tests and applications online that will give you a sense of the types of questions that they would ask during the exam. A quick tip though, the question format that even the DMV gives you on their website and on these apps, they are not at all reflective of the actual types of questions that you are asked during the exam. I found that the hard way, but I still was able to pass the first time. When you first go into the DMV, you'll pay a fee for getting the permit. And for that fee, which is around $28, you're allowed to retake the permit exam up to 3 times. For the permit exam, you are able to select out of 4 possible answers in the multiple choice component of the test, and you're also allowed to skip. If you don't feel comfortable answering one of the questions, it's definitely advisable to skip a question so that you can go back to it afterwards. Once you're successful in obtaining your permit, or basically once you pass the permit exam, then they have a little booth that's inside the examination center. You will go and talk to the clerk that is working there, and he will give you your permit, which is just a piece of paper. It can't be used for any sort of photo identification because there is no photo included on it. And he will give you this, which is the driving test criteria. The driving test criteria is a really great manual. It tells you what they expect during the driving exam, but they actually did the test really different than what I was used to back in Canada. And I'm just gonna tell you basically what is going to be included in the exam. The first thing they're going to have you do is you're gonna pull up to, it really looks like a drive-through, for like a McDonald's or a Burger King, and you pull your car up there and you wait for the examiner. The examiner will come out after you've previously checked into the DMV for your appointment, and the examiner will come out and ask you to do some basic things such as turning on your headlights and using your hazard lights, or how to use your turn signals, and also to do your on signals as well. Once they know that you're proficient in that, they're going to enter into your car, and then you drive basically on this designated road around the DMV, and then it takes you outside. For the entire test, it takes around 15 to 20 minutes depending on the examiner. And for the test, you're just going into a neighborhood and you do some turns and maneuvers, looking at four-way stops, constantly checking the roads for pedestrians. And then the only and like most difficult part of the exam, I would say, is after they'll find a place for you to pull over, and they'll have you pull in onto the side of the curb. And then once you've positioned yourself in a comfortable position, they'll basically tell you to back up for 300 feet, which is basically 3 cars lengths. During this entire time, you're not allowed to touch the curb, you're not allowed to like go out into the road, and it's just really important to just place your hand at the top of the wheel and not move your hand or feel nervous and start jiggling around, because then he will see and he will very well fail you. Once you're done with the backup, then what will most likely happen is he'll have you drive back to the DMV, and then he'll tell you your results. For the license, you are allowed, with the fee that you pay, you are allowed up to 3 retries. Afterwards, if you don't pass by the 3rd time you're doing the driving exam, then you have to retake the permit exam and the driving exam, and you basically have to start all over again. Definitely be careful of that. It was kind of scary knowing that that would have been possible and I would have to retake the multiple choice exam again, because it was just really frustrating. But luckily everything was good and I was able to get my actual California license. With the California license, you are considered fully licensed. It's usually a Class C when you register, and it comes into the mailbox around 2 weeks after you do your exam. Once you obtain your permit, you are allowed to drive as long as the person sitting in the passenger seat has a full California license. It's definitely good practice if you practice driving around the neighborhood that is closest to the DMV, but it is good to note that you don't need to go onto highways, you don't need to worry about parallel parking, and it's always great to choose, times that are a little more quiet, such as maybe 9:30 when classes have already started, or maybe on the weekdays in the mornings, as long as your DMV is not on close to busy streets or highways. Unlike the permit exam, where you basically paid once in the beginning and you're allowed up to 3 retakes, for the driving exam to get your license, it's around $8 every time if you need to retake the examination. Although, yeah, it's super bothersome, but getting your license is really great because it's another piece of ID that locals and police officers and just anyone around here will be able to recognize, instead of looking at your license from, say, another country or from another state and asking you if it's legit or not. If there are any questions, feel free to drop a comment down in the comments box. And that is all I have for today. Thank you very much.